I'm Lieutenant Frank Drebin, Police Squad.
This, 4, their most accomplished album. I think their undisputed masterpiece is Hip to Be Square. Hey, Paul! I got a reservation at Dorking Avenue!
Mr. I can't hear you.
Recording in progress.
Oh, you can hear that?
Recording. I just want to let you know the recording is in progress. Oh, what a beautiful outdoor location, dude.
Thanks.
Is this someplace you've been for a while? Are you staying here?
I'm renting it for just a week to week with my buddy Claude. It's his place, and I've been bouncing around a lot.
Bouncing around, yeah. You know, I just watched your video with Cammy, I think, right, from Cuba.
Oh yeah.
And you were doing an Airbnb thing. You had a really cool image behind you.
Yeah, I couldn't smoke at the
Airbnb or something, and it all just focused on you. Right.
Compositions, everything. I couldn't smoke.
You gotta smoke.
I gotta smoke. I gotta drink. I gotta boost it up.
Not be you. Oh, all right.
I couldn't at that location. That was in Santa Barbara. I was trying to sell artwork in Santa Barbara, which is really tough. It's a fickle crowd. Yeah. And so I've been trying to get Cammy for a while. She's in a punk rock band, Period Bomb.
Yeah.
She's really something. I think she's got something really, I don't know, she's got that it factor thing. She's
that it factor.
Yeah, she's a classic beauty.
I know.
Super fucking passionate and
yes,
super talented.
I know, and what a broad range of things going on. I mean, from her musical expertise to her flexibility, and the painting you made of her, the backstory of being roommates a little bit. That's kind of touched upon, and then to this crazy stuff happening in Cuba. Oh. Man, you were having some really interesting podcasts.
Dude, I gotta tell you, man. Oh, everybody, we've already started. This is Brett's with Friends, episode 61. With Stephan Pitkin.
Wow. There's that many?
61, baby. You're the 61.
Oh, okay. I'm the 61th. Yeah.
First.
That's how we're going to say that. Yes.
61.
Well, for this episode, it's 61th because this is our space where we make the rules.
Yes. This is our safe space where we make the rules.
Yes.
And anything can happen.
We can smoke. We could just completely ruin the English language.
I wish I had a joint. I just have these cigarettes and this beer, but
oh, dude, just hang out with me a little bit on video. You will have smoked many joints.
Perfect. Already.
Yes.
Let's see, because this is a special episode because I haven't. They're all special, but the one I was editing last night is 3 hours long again. I did another 3 hour long podcast with this guy named Brian Boone. Who's a VR guy, and a very intense conversation. We go through like these conversations. I didn't know the first thing we started talking about right off the gun was the N-word, and I didn't expect.
Oh yeah,
and that's going to be up later today. That's the 60th episode. But then we go through a rabbit hole of like, right. I don't like to usually make these at 3 hours long. I didn't know that was going to happen. But we go down from that to, we go all over the place. So it gets a little squirrely.
Let's talk about the C word right now. Come on, you and me. Talk about the C word.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it.
It's kindness. That's the because in our world we spell kindness with a C.
Yeah, okay.
This is our podcast.
This is the 61th episode, by the way. Yeah, so
exactly.
So we get a little.
So what do you want to talk about? How many people do you think we'll have watching one day?
I have no clue.
What's your ambition?
I have no goal. This is my goal.
Ooh, that's kind of Eastern.
Activity. This is more of like a time capsule, really. If somebody ends up after I'm dead watching these, and if they ever want to know, this is checking a lot of boxes. Right. As a creative.
We're just two typical people from the year 2021.
Yeah. So the
You
aliens
want to know what 2021 was like? Just watch us.
This is it. Yeah, there's sort of like a time capsule. I'm not monetizing this. I'm not trying to. At this point, it's more just basically it's just for us. Really.
I am. I'm monetizing it.
If you can make some money off
See, I came on because I wanted to borrow some money, Brett.
I'm paying you for this, right? Somebody wanted me to pay.
That's right.
Somebody wanted me to pay them to come on the podcast. I was like, I'm
how we get more guests onto your podcast.
We're gonna pay him $10.
He pays you. It's the currency of love.
It is a currency of love.
Spirit currency. There is a currency to that. There is a C word to that. Excuse me. Sorry, Mom.
Is she gonna watch this?
I hope so.
Oh gosh. Okay. Hi, Mom. How you doing?
Yeah.
So you're a person that's hard to describe. I've met you. Let's go back in the past.
I'm hard to describe. Yes.
And we'll go from there.
The past.
Let's go to the past, and then present, and then future.
We lived on Sesame Street together. When you say it was like a rated X version of Sesame Street, Venice Beach.
Yeah, that's when we were.
Everybody walks. There's like no cars in a certain section, so everybody has to get to know each other. You see familiar faces day after day. And I'd lived in other parts of LA, and it was really, what a colorful experience that was.
I think we got the best part of Venice back then. That was what years were those? Like 97, 96, 98?
Yeah, the pre-tent years.
Yeah.
Yeah, late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah, and I came back here to New York in it's Christmas Eve of 2005, and I haven't left since.
And whereabouts are you? Are you in like Saskatchewan, or I just want to say the word Saskatchewan?
Yeah. I be in Saskatchewan. Yeah, some posers out there. I'm upstate New York, and it's like half hour north of Albany. And I grew up here. This is a street where if you go down the street, and I'll kind of move like you can see a street or anything at all anyway, which you can't. But I grew up in a house down the street, and I'm living with someone who's severely disabled, and I'm taking care of him. And it's just sort of like one of those things you just get used to, and the momentum develops, and it's like having a dog in a way. I mean, maybe I'm the dog. Yeah. So I'm not saying he's a dog. We're both dogs, really. And this is our dog house. And it's just a sense of loyalty that just develops from, relating to another person on such a deep level, taking care of them in their most private moments. But he's a pretty creative guy.
How long have you been caretaking for this gentleman?
I've helped him out since 1988. I was still an altar boy.
Wow.
At St. Edward's Catholic Church. And another guy who happened to be an altar boy, who I'd known since childhood, I think he walked into my backyard and asked me if I would help out. And I remember like this really creepy vision I have of like getting really in over my head with some shit like that my young mind was not prepared to take on. This massive sense of responsibility for somebody who is in like an unprecedentedly grave situation, in terms of what I had experienced up till then in my life. So it was like really big deal. But when I came over here, everybody was funny and friendly, and there was a sense of being kind of like in a fraternity house, well, like a more focused fraternity house. Yeah. And so actually he told me a story. I remember because he could only move with his head, just couldn't really move his arms and legs.
Can you tell us his condition? Like what's his affliction?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We thought he had MS at the time. Okay. And then in 1992, he was re-diagnosed with ALS, and his condition hadn't really progressed much, but it was kind of funny because when they re-diagnosed him with ALS, they gave him 6 months to live. This was like 1992. And so every year he'd come back to that neurologist who'd be kind of baffled because like that 6 months had gone by pretty fast and nothing really happened. And Rich tells me that like, the third or fourth time he came back to the guy, he just gave him a hug and probably gave up on the
Yeah.
on that prognosis.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's outlived like a lot of his friends, and over the years we've had some really cool people come over here, some intellectuals who started some pretty interesting movements, like a guy who had started his own form of psychotherapy and made so much money at it that he got a ranch out in Eldon, Missouri that used to be owned by David Allen Coe. So at one point, Rich, in his disabled state, was taken out there with a physical therapist and a mutual friend, and they rode on this cart with like a glider and a propeller in the back, and did all kinds of things. This guy would have like horses come into his kitchen. He had a houseboat where he'd conduct therapy on this like pond on his property. So there was some really nice flow and creative flow coming into this house. Always a really good vibe. Just well-intentioned people wanting to come together, and Rich was a centerpiece of all that.
Wow.
And he'd have a big smile in greeting you when you'd come over, just welcoming you. So yeah, there's a lot of positivity to this. So
like that's a big job to do that. Does it take because it's sort of like it's got to take a special DNA strand to be, I guess, to do what you do. I mean, it seems like I guess it would presume it would be a heavy emotional aspect to you, and I know that you must be some sort of pathetic person. Must have like some sort of, it takes a special person to do what you do.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you.
Like what that makes a person be able to do the things that you do in regards
it's really interesting. Yeah. I mean, there's like a whole element of it that's really boring. On one hand, you could look at it that way, and I'm sure a lot of people do. And there's a whole element of like disability and boredom. And it's very easy to slip into that mindset where you're looking at this thing that shouldn't be happening in the first place. This shouldn't be happening to this guy. And then I shouldn't have to do this for him. And the things that I'm called upon to do when I want to be this great artist, oftentimes we in conflict. So part of my conflict was I want to go back to LA, seek my fortune, blow up real big, man. And here I am wiping a guy's nose or other things, right? Mm-hmm. And but there was one element to me, and I'm not sure where this came about, but it was an appreciation for modern art and the kind of a thing that looks like a mistake, but is really ingenious. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think there's something, maybe you appreciate this in art too. It's very basic to human nature that we all love to see the underdog win. And that underdog could be somebody who looks like they have no talent at all in terms of what they paint on a canvas, but through that combination of courage to show their lack of talent to the world, maybe becomes talents, and it redeems that thing that looks like any child could do, so that we can see it freshly. And it is great art. It's like this alchemical process. But I think there was something in me that just has always appreciated that where I held out hope, where I could continue to work for him and know that what I was doing in a sense was the art itself, and that it's gonna pay off in the end. That what I gain from doing these things that shouldn't seem to be happening, like again, he wants me to wipe his nose again and again, and there's no real cure for this. The little things, that means so much. Like when you're sitting on your butt in the chair all day long, that proper persnickety position that he's whispering, because he doesn't have much breath. He's whispering to me and I can barely understand what he's saying. That all has to be communicated. And I have to do these little things that I don't understand. They have no meaning to me. It's all what he knows. I have no, I'm not in the control pit. I'm not working the controls here. I'm just having to trust him, and that what he's asking me to do means something in the long run, because it can be so many tiny details of everyday life that they can either make or break, I guess, your state of mind. So
yeah, it seems like you became his extension, is almost like alternate self.
Yeah, that's right.
You're his
dude. I can totally see some surreal, like being John Malkovich kind of a movie coming out of that one statement that you made. We'll get your your deep fake technology in your introduction to be
It's-
like, I'm his alternate self and like faces planted on him. That'd be fucking crazy, dude. I'm really
You do
loving
that.
that idea. I could riff on that for a while.
Yeah, it's a trip. The reface thing is completely by accident. I didn't realize that was going to become. I mean, they keep on coming out with new refaces. It's a free app, so I keep on having.
Okay.
I have all this. I guess a free intro and I never thought that was going to become the intro where they're gonna. I was like, oh shit, we'll just use that. But do you know who started it off was Kyle Dunnigan. That's who inspired me. He's a comic character actor, comedian. He does that Homeless Slice Alone. He's guys. Anyways, I've mentioned him before. I've been on his podcast a couple times.
Nice.
Slice Alone and stuff like that.
Throw like a flash clip of him if you can into this.
Well, I'd love to put in a clip of me on one of his episodes real quick. Maybe we'll put that in right now.
Nice.
What was your name?
Who was Mr. Pickles? She's already picked somebody. All right, I guess we're doing this. Okay. If you guys want to start a hashtag Fire Jessica, feel free to do that. All right. How you doing there? What's your name?
Do you want
could you?
hold it?
Yeah, I told you. Gotta turn your volume down there, mister.
Can you turn your volume down on your show?
For you guys don't like the chaotic nature of this, you know who to blame. It is Jessica. I think Jessica's t-shirt sales are not going to be doing very well.
I will defend Jessica all the time. She's awesome.
That's fake, nigga. All right, what's your name?
I'm Brett.
All right, Brett, you ready to play Don't Land on Mr. Nickus?
Sure. Let's have it.
All right. You're going to tell us when to stop, all right? Here we go. Don't land on Mr. Nickus. Don't land on Mr. Nickus. You can land on the shark or the tortoise. Okay, you landed on a fire-breathing dinosaur, which is better than landing on Mr. Nickus. We're going to send you out some animals on animals.
How can that possibly be better? A fire-breathing dinosaur would kill you.
I love it.
Yeah, we're going to send you. Yeah, it's better to land on the dinosaur or a shark than to land on Mr. Nickus. If you land on Mr. Nickus, you have to hear. Oh boy, sorry.
Congratulations, Brett.
Thanks for playing there, Brett. Jessica will get your information. Probably screw it up and send those stickers to somebody else. But thanks for there, Jessica. All right, let's get that next person for play here. Go land on Mr. Nickus. Come on, guys.
Maybe I'll start because I want to grab that eventually.
And we'll pretend like we both watched it. And we'll just have a random reaction to it.
Okay, so we'll do that right now, and we'll come back, and we're back. Oh my God, can you believe that shit?
I can't believe that, man. That was the best single clip I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm so enriched by that.
Well, I feel better for it too. And so he was doing the face swap with the Kardashians and all this stuff, and I got on his show, and the lockdown was happening, and it was I don't know, I wasn't doing anything else. So I was like, well, shit, I've always wanted to have a TV show. So why don't we just go ahead and do one? And the
I'm so happy for you.
The Brett's with Friends kept on popping into my head. Like, who would I invite in the show?
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
everybody is welcome. Yeah.
Everybody's welcome.
Everybody's got something interesting underneath. I've been wanting to do something like this for years, sort of. And I'm glad that you have.
Well,
it's great to be able to just be so present that you can just find what it is that makes somebody, you might say, photogenic on a larger level, where people can really get into their personal drama and get excited about what they have going on, whether it's success, whether it's failure, wherever they happen to be in life. That's the moment. That's the gold.
Yeah, and it's funny because some people, like actors in particular, are so self-conscious about what they look like that they didn't want to. Some people focus on themselves when they're doing this, but or try to make notes or prep or have questions already prepared. And I was like, forget about all that stuff and don't look at yourself. Look at me when you're doing this, because if I was to when I edit these things, trust me, there's a billion things I've said and done and look like that are not good. Or to me, you know, if I was to really critique myself, but you can't approach it like that. You just got to be in it and not worry about. Like when I'm doing these, I'm talking to you. I'm not focused on myself, unless like sunlight's coming in my eyes or I need to move positions. I try to keep it, you know, not be because I'm seeing sort of myself as a third person right now as we do this.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
not really.
I am
not
too.
completely here, even though because
Yes.
I'm not thinking about.
I don't feel. I feel
this.
like you're a third person. Actually, I don't feel like you're really here either. No, I get it. Actually, though, really, I feel the same way about myself. Yeah, it's a funny thing when you get
It's
that
really-
way. I mean, especially if your picture's small and theirs is large, you get immersed in them, right?
Yeah, well, ours are the same
That's part-
side.
Oh,
Same
okay.
size
Well,
right now.
through everything I just said right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're wrong.
Forget it.
No, but yeah.
No,
so
yeah.
I'm getting bit up out here,
Yeah,
man.
no.
These fucking fleas or
Dude,
something.
are
You get
they?
a lot of mosquitoes over there?
never. Look at my perfect skin.
I know you have like that sweet alabaster young
I know, dude. Yeah. Oh God. Where did the hair go? Yeah, it's like it's my head is just like blending into the sky now.
Yeah,
I've been
that's why,
lighting. Oh,
that's why I'm in the shadows, because if this was to be if I had direct sunlight, the top of my head looks like a fucking broken down barn in the middle of the fucking the middle of nowhere with like
they make the
you
best
see like light
photographs,
shadows
those
going
broken down
through.
barn. That's right.
Lighting
Yeah,
and everything.
it's right. Yeah, it's like a lake
Yeah.
up top.
It's going though. It's going. It's going. It's going.
Just embrace it and see what happens next. I feel like if you really zoom in on just about any quality you have, there's going to be this surprising beauty. But it's like when we hold back. I think you just froze. Oh no, you didn't. Holy cow, that was really, dude. Are you a mime? That was really still.
Okay.
You never know. Part of the drama of live zooming is you never know when the whole thing is going to go wrong.
Yeah,
Somebody's just going to be freeze like this, and you'll still hear them talking.
Yeah.
And you wonder if the sound's going to cut out. Hey, just wherever the drama is, let's capture it. Let's lasso it.
Lighting in a bottle, baby.
And it's all going to be exciting, and people will not be able to look away.
They can't. They won't be able to look away. They'll be
from the baldness. Yes.
We're eventually going to go into VR where we're in the audience. We're all wearing goggles and we're all in a setting. But I like this natural thing.
Right.
Okay, so wait.
Yeah.
You're an artist. You paint. I got one of your paintings.
Yes.
I was lucky enough to get one of your paintings a long time ago. I still have it.
You were lucky. You were. Yeah.
I'm very lucky. And I'm actually for my film The Agenda, we shot in Santa Monica in Venice, and I'm gonna try with Sarah Scott. You never saw this film, but I think I mentioned this to you, but we have I did a shot of her walking, like with a wide shot of your Titanic mural.
Oh.
In the
really?
In pristine condition.
Oh yes.
And so
before it got shipwrecked.
Yeah, before before Clowney got all over it. And sort of fucked with it. But I want to get that and re-edit that film with that great long shot of your entire amazing Titanic mural.
Thank you, man.
So
Thank you.
I'm gonna have to call up on Sarah Scott to allow me to get that footage, and I don't even know if she has it. Sometimes
Sarah,
you should never get a.
Just give it up, Sarah.
Yeah,
it's not worth holding on to anymore.
Nobody.
Too many years.
Yeah, it's too good not to edit in there. I should have edited it in the original cut, but anyway.
I think you should make the entire movie about my mural.
Actually.
Yeah, that's my agenda.
Yeah. So tell us about your creativity. I know you have a lot of artwork. I'm gonna try to get you to send me some JPEG so I can show it, but you might not want to do that.
Yeah.
But like if you can, we'd like to show something. But describe.
Sure, why not?
Describe. I mean, were you always drawing as a child, growing up, or just describe your art life?
Yeah, sure. It's always interesting talking about this and getting into somebody's creative process. I thank you for that opportunity, because it's always interesting to me to sort of look it over. Yeah, I know that we were kind of like really religious and had a kind of a strict house where TV wasn't allowed a lot of the time. My parents thought it would be best if we weren't exposed to the rampant materialism of advertisers targeting children and even cartoon violence. So there was like a whole point where we had nothing to do except like read books. My brother at a young age worked at a library, so he'd bring home a stack and I'd read like most of his books. And so we'd be reading a lot of books and then just trying to like make whatever we saw. It's like just basic copycat stuff. Like, you hear your dad say something cool, you say that too. Now you're like your dad and you're cool. So there was this element of just wanting to copy the things that I would be taking in. So I'd try writing my own books and then I'd illustrate them. Like I'd be reading the Hardy Boys and I'd make my own little murder mystery thing that just went nowhere. Like I called it Too Many Clues. And I think there's still a copy of it, like hanging around all yellowy and everything.
Ooh.
And brittle paged. But, there were these two detective guys and they had their own hot girlfriends, just like the Hardy Boys did. And I would just draw pictures to go along with that. It was just like a creative, it was really just like a trying to grow up kind of a thing with a pen. And
also it sounds like maybe emulating things that you found entertaining and interesting.
Yeah, interesting and entertaining. Yeah. I mean, when you're so affected by something, you want to get in the driver's seat. It's like seeing a race car or something. You want to get in there and have that experience for yourself, because standing on the sidelines only has so much it can offer, right?
Yeah.
When you're really into something. Then one day I saw my brother Michael. He had drawn some cartoons and they were just these people that had never existed before Michael made them up. And I was like, I want to do that. It's like I could have as many friends as I want as long as I can just draw them. Like there's no limit. So I started drawing like panel cartoons and I had these ambitions to be a famous newspaper cartoonist, like God, now I'm forgetting his name. The guy who drew Garfield, the guy who drew Burke Breed, who did Bloom County. And so I really got into cartoons and I was just drawing this stuff in my spare time. And it was really wonderful because I felt like these were my people. They were my characters. I could design them the way I liked. And I got pretty good, bought some professional paper as a teenager and really had kind of a mind to do that. But when I was, I think it was like once certain hormones kick in, like around, puberty, like suddenly like the goofy, cartoony kind of me sort of turned into a different me. And I became more serious and I started to find out that people were doing all kinds of interesting art. And when I was about 17, I was starting to get into art films. I watched a movie called Slaves of New York with Bernadette Peters. And there were just all these cool, funky guys living in like squats and people doing their own funny thing, probably in the Village in New York City. And I remember telling a friend that weekend that I saw the movie, I want to be a starving artist. Like I thought that was badass. Mm-hmm. I want to just be utterly free with color and form and sensations and just like have that canvas, just like this podcast, have this canvas to just let loose, just let everything be legitimate. What comes out of that? So that kind of led me on a trajectory of kind of glorifying some of the homelessness that you saw with me when I was on Venice Beach. The sense of like having no place to go, not knowing what's going to happen next, wondering where you're going to get your next meal, and having a completely different lifestyle than the micromanaged life of a Catholic school student, where I had my little plaid tie and my navy blue pants, and you had to stand in line in a rigid manner, no hands in the pockets, so all this micromanagement, and then the micromanagement of your soul. There was another aspect to art that really hit me, was that as my hormones changed, and this might be a little controversial, but like my only source of porn in the house at a certain point was like these art books my parents had. Okay. And then because we didn't have cable, it was like PBS, which of course had Sesame Street in the morning and all these like really fun children's shows. But later on in the evening, it had like The Man Who Fell to Earth and like wild art films that involved nudity. And of course, I'd watch them at the age of 15 just to see a nice pair of jugs, because that was my only source. But in the sitting there poised, waiting like a dog waiting for a treat for that one little dopamine hit, I would like take in this very interesting alternative narrative of how reality works, like other than the narrative we were given with like the sitcoms that were popular, or Miami Vice back in the 80s, which is the kind of stuff I grew up on and grew up seeing, but like a whole subtle world that I thought was a very brave world to portray by these artists who could very well not have gotten the movie made at all, because that's how art can be. It's not a sure thing. And so for people to kind of share like their most intimate thoughts and dreams, either on canvas or in film, or just in a lot of whole other ways, like music, things we discovered maybe going to college, that is a great invitation to somebody who has a deep inner world that maybe hadn't been acknowledged or validated by parents, friends, family, the pressures of sports and school, the things you're supposed to strive for in life. And there's this whole other subtle, sense of beingness, I guess, that was then suddenly recognizable. And so art became, like started out as kind of like porn, and then it just evolved and matured. But I realized that, when I would look at these Rubens paintings, they were very much like the sense of celebration of form that you'd see in a cathedral, because being Catholic, we had these gorgeous art places we'd go to with these altars and stained glass windows and everything. But there wasn't this kind of punishing sense that like, sex is forbidden, that the church kind of has a strange way of implying. But it says, but like a Rubens painting is like, sex is okay too. It's all part of the glory. And it felt like a more complete way to experience life. So there's like this inclusiveness in art. And then you get into modern art and you're like, oh, so those mistakes I thought I was making back, when I was trying to draw George Washington, like those actually not only are okay, but you can make millions of dollars with them and have them hanging like on a gigantic canvas in this beautiful light of a museum, and have people just, whoa. And so there's a little bit of a sense of like, well, I can be a con artist too, like these people. There's a little bit of like, you see something that looks easy to do and you're like, well, I could do that.
Yeah.
And you try it, and maybe you're successful, maybe not. But then there's certain, you almost start to see like, okay, well, the piece of art that like de Kooning made that fetched like whatever $90 million last year at Christie's, probably more now, with a whole lot of slashing, violent, painterly stuff going on that doesn't really look like anything. Like, not only is that legitimate as a way of like hoodwinking people, but when it's really good art, I think like really good abstract art, it kind of shows that the money and the acclaim that you get for it is also kind of an illusion. And so I kind of came to that notion. I thought that's an interesting thing to play around with. I don't know if it's real, I don't know if it's fake, but that's also interesting. So that as I'm creating this canvas, maybe I'm acknowledging that the world is an infinitely pliable place that I can kind of create. So not only do I have the domain of being able to create within this rectangular canvas area where my mind can freely roam, but it's like a foot in the door to reality itself, to where we can open up and make the world our playground. Everybody can, and there's enough for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's I felt like art continuously was able to, despite setbacks, despite depression, despite not wanting to paint, or loading my mind up with negativity and feeling like a failure and whatever, there's always been this kind of gentle return to that possibility that just keeps me going with it.
That's it's like it's hard, like sometimes the inspiration of it, that elixir of that for me, it's like it comes in waves sometimes where I want to feel inspired when I'm not inspired, and then it's like I just painted for the first time in about 2 weeks yesterday, and
Wow.
but I mean, sometimes it's hard to get that because you don't want to keep on, like, for me, I mean, I got like 50 different types of paintings I like to do. The genres are from chunky abstracts to more figurative, female nudes to line work, almost like Asian, Japanese line work that have inspired me. But sometimes it's like to stay inspired, sometimes you don't do something for a while and then you come back to it. Like my brother did something like a long time ago. My brother's a really good artist. I mean, but he lacks motivation. But he's a genius pen and ink artist. He's like a savant.
Oh wow!
The guy is so good. I'm gonna get him on here, but like,
Yeah.
He told me like a long time ago when I was like probably like in my teens that even if I don't paint anything, if I was to come back to it like and not do anything for like a year or 2
Yeah.
years, I'm still gonna be better from when I last left off because my mind has grown.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and you grow, and then you create, and hopefully you surprise yourself in a way that you're motivated and inspired to go in this weird tree branch of another angle, like this offshoot of something that creates something new and exciting for yourself. And that's sort of in the doing of that. It seems like that's a nice place to be creatively.
Yeah, yeah. I love that, surprising yourself. I've been playing around with that concept more of like, what have I grown kind of crusty about? Like maybe cynical, maybe like I've lowered my expectations about a person or about anything really. Like you go into anything you do, like say a painting. Okay, just because we're talking about art. And if you just like kind of do a sort of an emotional, mental body scan, you can kind of feel how inspired you are and or how like maybe I'm going to just mess things up and then be regretful, or who knows how this process is going to work. But you you just notice where you're kind of like creating an expectation of something. And so I've been playing around with like, what do I expect today to bring? Like, how good is today going to be? Right. And when I explore that, I can kind of see like there's a pretty low ceiling that unconsciously I've put on my day as far as like what great things can happen. And so the element of surprising yourself ties into that really interestingly. Sometimes I'll just pose like, I'd like to be surprised today by something really wonderful. Just kind of hold that out as an intention. Something's going to surprise me.
Yeah, to keep it surprising. Someone's trying to call me. Yeah, to try to I guess keep it fresh, surprise yourself, and work in different medias as well, like film, paint, ink, writing, photography. There's so many different ways to create a story, and sometimes with people in art, like I got into this weird rabbit hole with Hannah Sloan, who's an art curator.
Okay.
She's very smart, but we got into the selling points of art, and basically it came down to, I sell the art based on the story, your story. And so the selling of the painting is almost, I don't want to say counterintuitive, but it's sort of like another bracket of the art, but not necessarily the fun part, because I don't care about the story of how the painting got created. Maybe if one day, after I'm long gone, people do and make up stories out the art, or my, not to be egotistical, but if there's ever a biopic or something like that, that would be the story that somebody else would tell. It's not up for me to tell that story because I've already lived it. I'm living it.
Yeah.
But you can be inspired and write a screenplay, and that you understand certain components that are your perspective, and then something grows out of that. Either a fictional story or something. I might be babbling, but it seems like the selling of the art, the doing, are completely almost like two different sides of a magnet. And
that's interesting. Yeah, you didn't exactly say they're completely opposite. They're but they are, in a sense, they're connected, or they're the part of the same thing.
And also, I learned that, and I probably should have known this a long time ago, this blue chip thing, artists and stuff like that, who's buying these $1 million paintings? Who's buying these? Is it corporations? Is it billionaires? And it came down to this thing. It's a scam. People are hiding their money. They're laundering their money in assets that can become valuable in later in time because they're hiding their money. So it's a money laundering scheme. This whole thing, like even the Catholic Church, like buying and the Christian church, or all these people, all these artists that were paid to create these wonderful mosaics of stained glass and statues. They were paid by the church, and people would come into the church and give them the money so that they could look and be a part of this experience that they're all in.
Oh,
So
it goes back that far. Huh?
It goes back to caveman,
That's right.
Getting
Those bisons didn't even exist yet.
Yeah.
When
And
they were painting them on the
Yeah.
walls, it was just made up stuff.
And it was probably a scam to get some cave woman in the thing to so they could screw. Yeah, come check
That's
it out.
right.
My
Look, hey, look,
my
here's
art.
a picture of me like slaying 5 buffalo with my spear, lady.
She's like, you're sexy.
That's right, of course. Yeah.
It all comes down to that too.
Yeah.
But I'm blown away by like, and it's sort of like with cinema. Like I've gotten a little bit like, I don't know if jaded is the word, but I've and it's kind of a weird psychological, because I'm a cinephile. I love movies. They inspired me, like Frank Frazetta's, Ralph Bakshi's, Boris Vallejo, Kandinsky, Van Gogh, all these Tex Avery cartoons and Chuck Jones cartoons.
Yeah.
They all inspired me to do these things, but I think the art is in the doing. And if you're looking for like a goal, like I've met so many people that just do art, like, oh, this is the new kind of art. And it's like people trying to tell me that their computer graphics on canvas is the new art, and they've never painted before in their life. And I said, have you ever like touched paint to canvas or got paint on your fingers? And they're all, no, but I'm gonna make a lot of money doing this. And I was like, well, they're in it for the quick. If you're in it for the quick cash, I don't know if that's necessarily gonna work out all that well for you, because there's gonna be times where you're eating top ramen and spending all your money on paint, and because you have to create something. And it's almost like the money thing. Money is a very interesting concept, like, because we're gonna get back to you in a second, but I learned something recently.
Tell me.
Because I had a little bit of a gambling problem with blackjack and stuff like that. I've been in casinos, and I lost money, and I would stay up 24. This is only like, I wasn't really going to talk about things like this, but it actually linked into something that almost triggered me, but like where I realized something. That because money doesn't look like money after a while when you're playing and you're up $1,000 or $2,000.
Tell me about this. This is interesting.
Because
go into that. I want to feel that.
Money doesn't feel like money. It just looks like something that is it doesn't feel like paper. It doesn't look like, it doesn't have the value that you, but maybe you're getting those endorphin punches that you need. What's that? What's that?
It's kind of meaningless. It's kind of meaningless, isn't it?
It becomes that way until you walk out of there at 6 a.m. with no money, and you're like, delirious.
It sinks in.
Like, oh, but I realized that selling art is like gambling, because sometimes I'll sell a piece that should be like, well, I think it's very valuable, like $2,500 or something like that. You sell for $300. Yeah. And that punch, that endorphin kick, because somebody bought something and you needed that money. But then you're also hoping that, okay, I'll sell this one for basically at cost to survive, to get to the next one that the next painting might sell for its actual price.
Yes. That's how I was doing it too. That's my same mental process.
You're sort of jumping from that next kick to that next kick. And I realized when I lost this money and I had to throw myself back on Main Street in Santa Monica and sell these 4 foot or 3 foot by 3 foot oil paintings.
I remember you standing there, man, and you always look pretty up.
Well, do you know what? It's like, you're like,
hey, we're one happy family.
I think it's communication, and I like selling paintings, and that was the sort of epiphany. I liked the interaction with people, the surprise of like breaking people's cherries who never have bought art before, who would never usually buy art, but I gave them a price that they couldn't resist, and They're, well, I don't really know anything about art, but I said, well, if you like this and it resonates,
Oh,
it's
let me inform you, my friend.
you do like art and you're gonna buy this right now, so I can get a fucking chalupa in Saskatchewan. And but like, but it is I mean, but it can be exhausting. And so the trade-off to being your own boss and making things with your hands and then selling it, and you create the price point, you'll basically what sells the price of the paintings is almost relative if it can still keep you in shoes and a place.
Yeah, it's a really interesting insight. I was just thinking that yesterday, how it's like can like if you have a good thing to do, like a really important thing to do with that money, then a small amount in many ways is more valuable than large amounts that you don't know what to do with. And
I walked out
yeah.
just to interject because it's another point is when I was, because your brain makes a 360-degree, cuts it up like a diamond, like emotionally, what did I just do when I lost that money? What but I realized, like, when I was driving back to LA from the Chumash casino, they owe me a lot of money, but it's gone. It's not about revenge, but like
we could make it about revenge.
Was there anything that, because I no longer had that money in my bank account, that I was doing differently than if I had that money in my bank account? And I was like, no, I'd actually still be on Main Street selling my artwork to try to make some money. Even if I had that $2,000 or $1,000 in my bank account, I probably would still be doing the exact thing that I'm doing right now. So it didn't really, the illusion of the missing of that money, which is invisible.
Yes.
Didn't change what I actually needed to be doing anyways. So that,
oh my God,
it's a weird thing.
Did your let me see if I can weave the couple of thoughts that I've had as you were talking. See if I can bring them all together. One thing I found really interesting, I love watching Francis Bacon, the painter, interview. This guy was a really big gambler. And I remember hearing that he'd sometimes destroy canvases. This guy was pretty interesting. He'd see a canvas he never really liked hanging in a gallery window. He goes, he buys the canvas and then destroys it, because he had this kind of like sense of what he wanted his art to be and what he didn't want it to be. And that was stronger than the money to a degree. But he'd also gamble. And so there was some assistant of his who, I guess during kind of like World War II and post-World War II Europe, there were just a lot of changes in currency. So some currency would just become extinct or null and moot, to no longer have value, and a new currency would be printed and gambling stuffed into these canvases, and it no longer had any value, I think, according to that anecdote. But he also really talked about really liking, he had a really interesting process where he says he never did preliminary drawings, because if he did a drawing and then he just kind of filled in that drawing, it would kind of be dead. He called it would just be mere illustration. And what he wanted to do is get into the moment, as I understood what he said. He would try to get into the moment, which sounds so much like gambling, so much like being right on the roulette wheel. It's like and not only that, but he would take the unprimed side of the canvas and work on that instead of the primed, where you could wipe off if you make a mistake with oil. He said he wanted to make an indelible mark, where it's like, like you make that mark, there's no retreating from it. So there was a really confrontational attempt to grapple with raw reality. That is such a high, when you're gambling, there's a high stakes element. And if there's not a high stakes element to it, like, well, what are you doing? Like, do you even feel like you're living? If there's not that investment in what's going on here with your emotions and with your sense of like, I could lose something.
An element of danger.
An element of danger, right? And it's funny because it reminds me a little of I was like, after I was I had a fiance and we broke up, and I was like, the more I tried to keep her, like, the worse it got. And I was like, what was I doing wrong? So I started like looking at these dating coaches and like, okay, maybe they have some kind of a way of jogging my thought process here to see what I'm doing wrong, what I could do differently. And one thing I thought was really interesting is the whole premise of getting people to invest in you, getting people to invest, even if it's a small, like, could you hold my drink while I go take a piss in the men's room? Like, even if it's like they're getting you to get them to do tiny, tiny things for you. And and I realized that, like, I had been a big loser with certain women that I'd really wanted because I was doing everything for them and I wasn't finding ways of eliciting them to invest in me. So I was giving them presents, I was doing what they wanted. You know, if they called, I would kind of jump romantically, and that doesn't really work because you're not getting them to move. One thing about working for Rich is he would ask me to do some little thing for him. And I think this is maybe one of the reasons why I've stayed here this long, is because I've invested and invested. I've told him like my life story again and again and again. So I've told him all kinds of things. So he's heard everything. But another thing is just getting somebody to do simple actions for you that may have no meaning and they can't say no to. But that's like an interesting way of directing people. Like, say, if you were directing a movie, just getting an actor to do a few meaningless things for you so that they start to inhabit a moment, so they get a momentum rolling, right? I was conned out of a lot of money in New York City, and I realized many years after the fact that even though I didn't really believe the story the guy was telling me, he was getting me to move. He'd call me up and say, hey, I can't tell you this here, but meet me at McDonald's and I'm going to tell you what just happened. So I'd walk all that way. And I put these two concepts together, I'm like, wow, get people to invest in you. Even if it just means walking to McDonald's, I'm going to be much more receptive to what it is he has to say once I'm at McDonald's than if I simply had it on the phone. And I think that ties in with what you're saying about money. When it's just theoretical and just sitting in your bank account, you're not engaged with it. You don't get your hands on it. Like you say, art is in the doing. There's so much to that, just to do something, just to physically do something, even if it doesn't seem to have any meaning, as long as sort of doing something that's generally towards a particular end, to have that investment in it. And probably a lot of people don't quit the art game. Maybe I wouldn't recommend anybody quit, but they don't quit because they've invested so much time and emotion into it. It's a high investment kind of a process because your emotions are involved, your thoughts are involved, people, especially for you, like, you've sold the art, you've worked on it, you've put your dreams into it. So there's all this investment. And it's interesting how that is a powerful psychological truism that applies not just to art, but also to money. And getting your audience to invest in something, knowing when to hold back and not explain everything to them. Like if you're writing a screenplay, you want to have them ask questions and not necessarily give easy final answers to them. In other words, you want to elicit that they do a certain amount of the work too, and willingly. Because if you're doing all the work for them, you kind of like put up a wall.
Yeah. There's
I'm going all over the place.
I can see that aspect, but then there's also an aspect to what you're saying that I think can be very dangerous as well. Because
really?
Yeah, because I've had people try to use me to do things for them, for the sheer manipulation of giving me to do something for them, so I'm under their control.
Yes.
And I've dealt with many people on many levels. They will go nameless, who have taken advantage of that. And they want you to they want to actually imprint a part of themselves into your art. They want to make a mark in your life.
It's almost like a wall just went up as you started talking about that, with the like a screen, if you could see the light on your camera.
A halo.
It's like you're taking a step back from, wait a second here. This is dangerous. I'm gonna put a screen up here. I know, and that's the way it looks to me.
See if we can go
yes,
this way.
Absolutely true. And
that becomes
yeah,
also because it becomes you are now indentured into them because
yes,
and now your random chaos will erupt out of that. And where a bit of an empath, I guess, and I'm sure everyone's sensitive. I'm sure you're a sensitive person, but then it becomes like you're not dealing with the actual thing, but now you're involved in somebody else's life
yeah,
through some fault or no fault of yourself because you're just you're in survival mode. And so now you've had to basically, where is it? It's not passive aggressive. It's actually where you're in a relationship that you don't want to be in with somebody that you don't necessarily, but you feel like they've invested something in you or they expect something because they are using that to their advantage and not yours.
yes, yes.
Like we could name some names if you want. I know there's a person that you did some work for.
Oh, yeah.
But,
Well, yeah, it's interesting. I mean,
like, can you make me
well,
money? Will I be able to make money from you or through you? Will you make money? Will I make money?
Are you asking me this for real, or is this something
No, that's something that somebody asked you a long time
theoretical?
ago that we both know.
Oh,
but okay,
uh-oh.
okay, now you talk.
Now there are big questions. What is our audience thinking? Maybe they're investing. Maybe there's a clue hidden in these videos that's going to explain whatever it is that Brett is talking about. And if you could just find it, and I encourage you to do so, because probably.
Where's Waldo, the podcasting world? But
yes,
about,
there
right?
is. Yeah, there is you do. You encounter sometimes these, it could be trauma that caused them to act that way. It could be some kind of like coiled up little, knotted part of their personality that you encounter. I would hope that eventually I get to understand all this well enough that I could like really look what I would think to be evil in the eye. And I could really realize, okay, this person's manipulating me. This person just has, nothing but ill intent towards me. Okay. And I'm going to just face them. What am I going to do? I could cut them off. I could run. I could use the experience to prevent being manipulated in the future. I would like to think that within any adversary, whether it's a person, whether it's part of ourselves, whether it's my own addictions, which I've noticed that a lot of the things that I've tended to do compulsively that haven't been great for me involve me taking a series of tiny actions, right? So in a sense, like there's just not just people out there that could do us harm through manipulation, but it's ourselves. We can do ourselves harm through manipulation.
Allowing that to happen as well.
And allowing that to happen, exactly right. So you can start to notice what's happening and you can start to like call it out, and maybe in a very gentle and fun way, recognizing that these are just tools. They're neutral. They're like a hammer. You can build a house with it, or you can hit somebody over the head with it, but you recognize that it's a neutral tool and you don't give any blame to them because that can oftentimes cause blowback. So you just recognize and let them know that if you do this, that could lead to something more and something more and something more. And
I don't think they care. I don't think they care. So engaging them and telling them and feeding them back.
Yes.
Now they're becoming the source of they're winning.
Yes.
Because now they've got inside your head.
If they're
and now you're controlling you like a puppet. Because
if
now you're sitting there
enough,
explaining them why you are doing what you're, and then it becomes clouded and like you're just like, what am I doing here? What's happening? What are we doing right now? What is this?
They're framing it like they're winning, but inside them is a spoiled, hurt, disgusted little child. And if you can pull that thorn out of their paw,
you can.
And it's maybe not. I mean, I like to think that you can, but also I'm going to protect myself from that shit too. Only in the sense that I like to think that there are parts of me that are not beyond redemption. Okay. So I suppose that it may take a person of particular insight, not a better person, but a person who just knows how to do it. And that'll just be some random person maybe that might be able to pull the thorn out of the personality of, I'm getting confusing, pull the thorn out of the personality of that sadistic asshole who's just, hell bent on fucking people over. Maybe not. But to be able to recognize how that machine works in people, I think once you start to see it, you can start to use it. You can start to point it in the direction towards goodness, kindness. Once you see, especially an incorrigible person. Hey, if you could take an incorrigible asshole who's just hell bent on exploiting people, and you could sort of just tweak the GPS, you could keep all those things that are just power hungry and everything all working just fine, but just point them in the direction of doing good in the world. I suppose police do that in turning convicts into informants, or in international stage, we have people who used to be terrorists who are now like informing national security or homeland security about how terrorists operate, so on. So it's like just tweaking a little bit, but keeping the bulk of it. It might be a good way of reframing a situation,
and then
or
you
writing a story about
it. Then you're the puppet
master.
Then you're the puppet master, and now you become what they're doing. You become
See, here's the difference, though.
The attention, I guess, is different.
With great power comes great responsibility. We've heard this a million times all our lives. With great power comes great, and what is that responsibility? That is that when you step into a seat. You're standing on the chair now. When you sit in the seat, when you step onto the stage, mixing my metaphors, when you step into the pulpit of the spotlight of the electric fucking chair of power.
Electric chair of power. You realize that you're about to get your
I have screwed up.
Pride.
I have just completely fucked everything up.
No.
When you step into that seat of fucking, remember, it's the 61th episodes.
Yeah, this is 61th episode.
I'm gonna step into the seat of power.
How about this?
Step on my chair. Okay.
When you go into that river or that water or that pool or that ocean.
Yes, of power comes great responsibility.
Yeah. You either go with the waves or you
gotta really examine your soul. Like, am I somebody who has like unconscious tendencies toward exploiting other people, like when finally given that power? Because it sort of shows you what you're made of. Like, could I handle the pressure? Could I hold up? If you were given $1 billion or you were like given control of the lives of, like, you were president, you were given the control over the lives of everybody in the country to a huge extent, and that of people in other countries. Like, what would you do to justify staying there?
Yeah, you have to be operating at a probably with an agreement with yourself that you're operating and doing stuff in a selfless way, I guess, for the greater good. Because maybe you're the bridge between those two worlds, and you're the connector.
Yeah, you check back with a lot, wouldn't you? Your conscience, and you'd say, hey, am I honestly, aligned with everybody's best interests?
Yeah. Am I doing what is truthful? Am I being myself? Am I operating in a place of love and compassion? Or now am I just doing stuff to pad the wallet? I've seen money change people. I've had friends that as soon as they started making money and you became useless to them, they acted like you didn't even ever exist. It's a funny thing. It's a funny thing. And then you realize at the same time that, oh, maybe they were never my friend, and I was just operating and putting all that love into them and that friendship that I wasn't even there in the first place. It wasn't all, and maybe I'm just now seeing it for the first time. Maybe it's a learning thing. Ever cut somebody out of your life?
Yeah.
And how that felt like just dropping them, and how
right now.
I get a booger.
Oh, I'm really good at that, right?
uh,
A master.
clean.
Yeah.
But it is a very, and these are learning experiences, I guess, and some people never talk about stuff like this. So maybe just by engaging in conversations like this, we can not only educate ourselves, but maybe somebody else will have resonate with this and go, oh, I know exactly what you guys are talking about. I've been in that situation before. But like it's yeah, when people change and there's like a cycle of time, like 10-year cycles or 7-year cycles, where your life is going different rhythms and stuff like that.
All your cells are die and are replenished, and you're kind of a new you. And
it's a
7
trip.
years later, it's a trip.
Yeah, it's a trip. It's a trip to realize, like when somebody stopped talking to me one time, who was a good friend of mine, and I did a lot of work for free for them and cahoots that we thought we might work together.
Yeah,
and they stopped talking to me, like just dropped, and I was just talking to this person every day. But everybody around, like my Sponto had just passed away. My father had just like literally passed away, and so I felt that I was very vulnerable because these are like life things, but I felt something like I thought maybe something bad happened to them. And so when you realize later that they just didn't want to talk, that they just didn't like you and want to talk to you, that empathy and compassion that you had for that person for those years was an illusion. And that you feel like, oh shit, I feel like oh, I just wasted all that love and heart and stuff like that on somebody that never ever liked me in the first place. So you feel like a I guess it's a life understanding thing, because if they didn't like me, they should just let me know, oh, you're okay, I'm okay, but I don't want to talk to you anymore. So don't instead I felt like, oh shit, all these people are dying, I hope they're okay. You don't know if they got in a car accident because you're talking to them every day. But so there's levels
attachments form with people, and when those are severed like that, it's disruptive. It's like you're used to a certain flow, and then that's just totally interrupted. What does it mean?
I do not know.
I think that is a blank canvas, though. I think that's our opportunity. And look, why not? I'm gonna make a full confession. I have been that person, Brett. I have been that person where like I cut somebody off. Like, okay, this is interesting. Okay, because I was gonna say this a little earlier. Like, in my 20s, I would just like walk off jobs. I wouldn't say goodbye. I wouldn't say like I'm gonna quit. Well, once I did. I'm gonna quit in 2 weeks. Like there were a lot of jobs I just walked right off.
That's a good feeling. That feels
anything.
Good, doesn't it?
It felt great, yes. And it's like sometimes I wouldn't even know why I was doing it really. But it's almost like where thoughts and words just don't work anymore. Like I couldn't even explain it. And it was like, I think there are a lot of people who will do things and it surprises them, it shocks them. They don't know why they did it. They don't know where it came from. It's like they're discovering a part of themselves. Maybe they hoped it had gone away, and it just comes back. And before they know it, maybe they've been suppressing it, not even conscious that this is going on. It would be nice if they were conscious about it, right? Be nice to the rest of us. But it just kind of like they don't know what to do with it. They don't know where to include it in the conversation. Maybe there's a feeling like it's not something to talk about. It's not something that's safe to talk about. But whatever it is, it doesn't get included. But after a while, it's part of them, and it just has to show itself. And I think what I felt when I cut people off was just like, I felt like talking at all about it is going to make it worse. Because maybe I tried to bring it up in a conversation and it just kind of didn't work. And then sometimes I'll see the person again afterwards and I won't know what to say. And there's this temptation to want to blame myself or want to blame them. And after all these years where I have done that numerous times, I'm like, okay, I've got to make this into a blank canvas for both of us. If I blame them, what's that going to do? If I blame myself, well, then I'm throwing myself under the bus. I don't know that I was really, a weak or childish person for doing that. Maybe I was, really in survival mode. Maybe that other person wasn't a bad person. They were a nice person, but just the way that dynamic was happening could have been a threat to me. It wasn't like they were bad. It was just mixed. It was like sodium and some other kind of element, and they explode together. But like that, whatever happened, that trigger, that nerve got hit, and then boom, I had to, either I was going to cut it off, or I don't know what. I was scared what I would do. Like I'd beat them up, or
Yeah, sometimes these things can turn violent, emotionally violent as well, which is almost
you uncover something. That con artist. Once I uncovered his con, he was about to beat me up. Yeah, he got violent. He got
really defensive.
Said, hey, look.
That's the Eckhart Tolle pain body. You know about the pain body, where it becomes the personality of the host. And no matter what you say,
I'm glad you mentioned Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah, the pain body thing speaks volumes in a very short amount of time. It resonates so hardcore. Like, I understand what the pain body is, and when you have it and you're in it and you see it in other people and they're lashing out at you and you don't know why. This one friend of mine who I had to let go after 20 plus years of friendship, I asked her, because she would be nice to me, but then she would be mean to me. And I didn't know what I was dealing with. It's like I asked her, why did you just do that or say that? And I mean, as a friend, without you getting angry, and they'll go, I don't know. I don't know. So there's something, you don't know what other people are going through, but I have met, including myself, that were in pain bodies, and that pain body wants to be fed, so it'll latch onto whatever will feed it. And sometimes that's manipulating people to do what that person wants you to do, but if you don't do it, then it lashes out at you.
Oh my God, man. So I just had this little revelation. It's like, a person who's being manipulated is going to manipulate others to the extent, oh dude, this happened to me. I remember when I cheated on my girlfriend at the time, and I didn't mean to, and all these disastrous events happened. She hated my guts, and I was thinking to myself, and I was like, I suddenly became homeless because I was living with her. So I'm like in this just limbo state with my life. And I remember she'd accused me of cheating on her well before I ever did. Okay. And I remember just defending and, fighting against that. And then, there's a distance that comes, when you're defending yourself like that between you and an intimate partner. But so I'm looking at that, but I'm also looking at, just generally speaking, how did it get to this point? And I had this idea, man. I had this idea, maybe because I let myself be pushed around by other people. It put me into a kind of a corner where the only thing I could do was just to kind of push back. I didn't deserve to be pushed against. Oh, was that? Yeah, we're okay. So anyway, I got this kind of theory. I'm just a domino, man, in a domino effect chain reaction. And if I can stop that cycle. Is everything okay?
I'm listening to you.
Oh, you can hear? Okay. So you still have sound.
I still have sound. Just
okay.
I'm listening to you.
Is the olfactory of in this video still working? Because I can't smell.
This factory's this is running like a well-oiled machine.
Okay, the factory. Okay. I'm pretending that we're like communicating in multiple sensory.
We are.
We're like in
our body language, the things that we're talking about in our actual our body language. There's many languages going on at the same time.
Yes, we could make sort of synchronized shapes with our hands.
Do you want to synchronize our
dude? Oh my God!
Hear me?
I could almost feel your hands when I'm doing this, dude. You ever tried like putting? That's wild. I almost felt like
we're never doing push-ups
there. That's strange. Oh, getting my shoulder.
This has never been done on the podcast before.
It's experimental.
We're breaking new ground.
so much you can do with a podcast.
This is my exercise for the
It's like
day.
windshield wipers, sometimes they go out of sync, like
Okay,
when
now
you're
I'm
looking
getting
at them
busy.
on a
All
bus. All right, fine. So what the hell was I talking about?
You're talking about.
I felt, Brett,
Yes.
I felt like I was just a domino. I'd been pushed around. I never stood up for myself. And so I just went and I confronted a couple of people who had done me wrong. And just because I felt like we're all connected as people, like the way we're affected by one person, if we don't resolve that, we're going to carry it with us and we're going to affect somebody else. And so that was my theory. So I just like took that opportunity when I was homeless and had cheated on my girlfriend, living in shame, not even living in a doghouse. And so I tried to make some kind of amends, actually, with people who I felt had done me wrong. Not making amends like I did something wrong, but to be not afraid of them anymore, but to confront them and give them kind of a, I don't know, I guess kind of learn from them, or just say, hey, I know what you did and I'm here and I'm peaceful and I just want to make things better for everybody. So I did that. A guy had stolen a painting of mine, which is the biggest painting. It was one I sold for $1,000, which is by far the most I ever sold. I mean, I sold it to him for $1,000. He's giving me in installments. And he was, I mean, I have to say, like, in terms of finding people who seem to like live to belittle others, in the 5 months I was supposed to get $200 payments that would have paid my rent because I was living with a million guys. Like, this guy just like used it as leverage to humiliate me and cut off payments, first of all, not sell the painting back to me. Okay. Like, just all these tricks. And then finally I find out like he had no intention of paying me. He had every intention of keeping the painting. And he has like a 3-story house in Venice, a BMW. And I'm like on the streets of Venice. I'm thinking, who would do that to somebody? And it just, and in fact, I was enraged at the guy. Had
Somebody
like endless thoughts.
who lacks empathy. Somebody who doesn't have the mammalian. Their reptilian brain. They don't think like.
Yeah.
They don't think
Yeah.
money to them is different than money to us. And and
that's right. In order for me to win, somebody must lose.
Well, they don't even think about that. They don't think about winning or losing. It's just what can they get? What?
Yeah.
And they don't matter. The repercussions doesn't matter. And it might be a form of control.
Yeah.
To feed their ego. Because they don't have because you're beneath them and they're up here, you're down here.
Yeah.
And keeping people in categories, and they will spend money on things that make them look good. And but the minions around them will suffer, but they will also keep doing what they're doing because that's all they got at that point.
That's right. And they can't face when they finally just let the armor down and all the people that they had screwed over. They don't trust those people. They say that the problem with a liar is not that other people can't believe him, but that he can't believe other people. It's like when you lie, it just puts that wall up where you make that other person out, who you're lying to, out to be someone you can't trust. I thought that's it just really turned my mind around, but I totally see it in this guy's situation. I finally came back to his house because I felt like really determined to just get things right. At that time when you cheat on my girlfriend,
like you're really good like that. You're and you say it with a smile, which is the person you're talking about barely ever smiles. So we have something that they don't have. We have smiles.
Yeah.
We can see.
Yeah, you're right. I never saw him into an easygoing, oh shucks, kind of a smile. No, never. No, it was all like a controlled mask, So I rang his doorbell and he appeared from the 3rd story of his house looking down at me. And I said, hi. And then this was really unexpected, Brett. I said, I'm not scared of you anymore, because I was terrified of the guy. He had this big Rottweiler that he barely contained when I went over to get a payment. He was kind of like, actually, that was the one time I think I saw him laughing, was this dog that was off the leash, like trying to get at me. And he's just like, yeah, stay away.
Yeah.
And And when he finally revealed that ugly side of himself to me, where like I had given him the benefit of the doubt for months and months and months, I'm looking for a redemptive quality to show itself, and finally it's like, I intended this, was what he had said. He said, we never had an agreement that I pay you $1,000. And I'm like, what? What? He says, because I offered to buy the painting back. He said this to me. He goes, why would I want to sell you my painting? Oh, I had walked with him to his house. Okay. The whole thing. So it was just nuts. It was like, I never had anybody just plant a turd into my cranium like that. A poison turd like that. And
a couple of Apache fucking helicopters somewhere. LA's under attack. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
Come
out where it's safe, Brett. Come to the peaceful.
I will. I'll be there. I'll fucking jam. I'll drive.
All the rebels are here, man. We have a rebel entrainment camp. We're gonna fight against those overhead flying machines.
Red Dawn over there.
Yeah. So I said, I'm not afraid of you anymore. And then I couldn't believe it. I broke down into tears, sobbing hysterically, sobbing at what I had done to my girlfriend. And which was like way worse. Like she thought she had an STD, life-threatening STD, which I never had, but I was scared of, and I had these paranoid thoughts in my head. So it just was like this big, terrible thing that happened on her end. Okay. And I broke into tears at this point, and I just said, I just want to trust people. And I cried so loudly, like the whole neighborhood could hear. And it was just like so honest and so true. So suddenly it disappears from that overhang, or from hanging over out the window. And then the door opens and he looks at me, and it's like there's a different person there. And then he hands me his business card. And I look at it and I'm like, oh no, I'm going to be on the hook again. Oh, this guy abuses me.
Yeah. He's going into the second.
But he looked at me in the eyes and he goes, no, seriously, call me. And it did end up where he was paying me little bits, but like always screwing with me. Like I'd show up and he wasn't there when he said he would be. And then one day I show up and he's got this big wall in front of his house. He has this big gate that he hadn't had before. And there's no way for me to call in. There's no punch key or whatever. So I just got to stand outside the gate when we had arranged for that period, that time. Okay. And this was like 2 years after you should have paid me. Oh, it was the first time I got the money, I got on the wrong bus and I was like an hour and a half late. And I didn't have cause I'm homeless, god damn it. So I come over there, finally I just show up and I'm like an hour and a half late. And he goes to me, you're a bit late, dude. And I said, well, Robert, now I said his name. I was on a bus and it went to Reseda, and I thought I was on the right bus, and I couldn't find a phone. And then he just goes,
pay me my fucking money, I wouldn't be late.
Yeah. I was 2 years late.
It's all because of you. Fucking won't pay me.
And then he hands me an envelope.
Not a lot of money.
Oh well, here's the deal, man. He goes, he finally gives me his business card. He says, now, and then we talk on the phone. He's pretending like nothing happened. He's like, okay, so what's the balance here? And then he says, well, I'm gonna have to do payments again, which is what he told me in the beginning. He had told me he would give me $200 payments over 5 months. And now we're doing payments again after he didn't pay me for 2 years. And I'm like, well, I didn't have any other options. So I just went with it. But when he said that, he goes, don't let it happen again. Like that. Like I couldn't fucking believe the guy had the audacity to do that. So he was just kind of doing things like that as he was beating out the payments. Finally, I call up from a payphone, I think, and I call his secretary. It's some girl who was like supposed to give me my money at the time when like nobody was home when I came to get it. And she obviously didn't want to hear what I had to say. And she's just like, well, I don't want to get involved. And I said, well, I just felt good that I was able to say it. And then I called his wife. Now, the problem with this is the painting, this giant painting, had an erotic element. This woman with her legs spread, and she's in a piano that's filled with water. And between her legs, but in the foreground, is this rounded knob of an easel. And there's a guy painting her picture, and she's like the Virgin Mary. I don't know what it meant, but it was an interesting painting. I was just playing around with concepts.
Do you have a picture of this painting? Do you have a picture of this painting?
I might somewhere. If I can find it, I'll let you know. But his wife hated it, so I never wanted to talk with his wife to resolve this issue. he said the wife hated it. That's why he wanted to stop the payments. And that's what he used as leverage to just cut off the entire payment system for me. So I finally talked with her, which was kind of interesting, Brett, because it was like, facing off with that person that I was afraid to talk with, who hated my painting, and would undoubtedly trust her husband over me. So I just said, I called her up. I finally talked with her. I said, I'm so happy to talk with you. And then I just poured my heart out, come what may. She's going to believe me. She's not going to believe me. I don't know. And she just goes, yeah. Like she's known this guy all her life. Yeah. And she knows he's that way. She goes, she kind of tried to mitigate it like they've been going through financial problems. But
this whole thing becomes like this story is crazy because all you were doing is selling a painting to somebody who you thought liked your art. And it turns into this whole avalanche of bullshit.
Yeah, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me as an artist because it was the painting where everybody was really coming in, or like a guy who at least claimed to be a Beverly Hills art dealer. And there were just a number of people that were showing me attention that I hadn't been shown previously. So this painting was a really good thing for me. When I had it out, I was the king of Venice Beach, for that time. So it was like a rare sense of royalty. And then this happened. And like every bit of the glamour and the glory just totally was turned on its head and into, my greatest success turned into my greatest failure. And which was kind of interesting because, several months before I couldn't sell a painting or, I didn't have that experience. I hadn't gone out onto the beach. I hadn't really had any market for my work. So to a degree, I wasn't worth anything. But now I got maybe $400 from the guy up front, and then the rest of it was just pure hell trying to get the rest of it. It was interesting to see myself in the position where I deserved this, and that he was the bad guy for not giving it to myself. In a sense, you could make an argument that I was the bad guy. Of course, nobody's the bad guy in some cosmic sense, maybe. But that I was the bad guy for having deprived myself prior to all this. Like I had just kept the bar really low on me. So I was exploring all that. I don't know if I've come to any real answers, but it's interesting to think about, especially having lived it. But finally, the wife did pay me the rest of it, and it was kind of a done deal with him. I saw him again. One thing I did, okay, and this is not to blow my own horn. This is going to be a little bit hard not to sound like I'm blowing my own horn. Basically, here's what happened. Okay, this is interesting because while I was raging at him, fantasizing about slitting his throat and stabbing him and killing him like in a million different ways, I was living with some people who the man was like a retired actor, and he'd been in some movies in the 70s. Been on Wonder Woman. He was in an episode of MASH, at least one episode of MASH. And so he had kind of a storied career, very interesting guy who liked my artwork and just basically gave me a place to live for free. Gave me all the canvas I wanted. He was really helpful in getting me just enough courage and structure to go and launch a fine art career. So I'm like, it was kind of a disconnect because here I am living for free off these people who are so good to me. And I'm raging against the guy who won't pay me for my painting. And I'm thinking, to what degree am I not appreciating how much I actually have and making myself miserable over this thing? And, having grown up religious, and of course I've disbanded with religious, but there's a certain element of like love your enemies that I always found pretty interesting. Like sometimes like in a little glimpse, I kind of get it. Like, and there's so many ways where that doesn't work. Like, love somebody and they walk all over you, and be nice to somebody and they slap you in the face. I mean, it happens all the time. You could be a doormat, but there's like a little weird it's almost like you got to smoke pot to get that realization or something. Because it's like, you got to fit through a keyhole to fucking understand this shit. But like, there's a point where, I mean, I guess this part of it is pretty common sense. It's like when you forgive somebody, it's not like you're condoning what they do or setting yourself up to be walked all over again. What you're doing is you're making your own life livable. Did I say miserable? Livable. You're making your own life livable because when you're forgiving that person, they've become a part of you at this point. Like if you can't get rid of an ex-girlfriend from, remember Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, where you try to erase somebody from your memory? Like, wouldn't that be great? But when we can't erase them, they are us. So if we don't forgive them, we are carrying around this monster in us. So the forgiveness, you know, you could call it any other word. I don't even care. But it's like whatever that thing is your own healing. Okay. And so I was experimenting with this and I didn't have the answers. But what I ended up doing was I painted a picture and I thought this guy would like it. And I thought, what if I just, you know what it's like, Brett, if you're investing, or maybe it's like when you're gambling too. And sometimes this does work when you're gambling. You buy the dip. So what you do is you invest in the low person. Okay. And you hope that by doing it, you will profit big time later on. All right. So if somebody does you wrong, and this is hard to do, and often, I mean, most of the time it doesn't work for me. But so I painted this picture and I thought it was one of my best. And I also thought that this guy who'd stolen my painting would like it. So I left it on his doorstep. And I think I probably fucking cried because I had overcome what could have ruined my life. Because if I had had a gun, or if I had means of taking this guy down, and I didn't have like a bigger plan for my life where I knew I never wanted to get into this shit, you know, if I was just totally a reactive mind, I could have killed this guy, and he deserved it, in my opinion, so hard. But so I overcame that, and like I think I saved myself by doing it to some degree. I left it on his doorstep, and eventually he came around and he asked me if I had done that, and well after the whole thing went over and I got paid my money, you know, a really Pyrrhic victory, like hobbling at the finish line. He said that he was going to do me a favor now, thank you, and he's going to buy a painting from me. And so I actually gave him double the price of one of my paintings that was on the boardwalk.
Yeah.
He came rollerblading up to me real leisurely. He says, well, I'm going to go to the gym, and I'll when I come back, I'm going to get the money and then I'll buy it. I think I was clear enough when I said I asked him double the price I was asking everybody else.
Yeah.
But he didn't really show. And then later on, I saw him again. He said, oh, you weren't there when I came back. And I said, well, basically, he had me waiting around for well over an hour. And I was just like, you know what? It's getting cold and dark. You know how it is in wintertime on Venice Beach. It's like radically different temperatures. So it's getting cold and like foggy and sticky. And I'm like, I'm not waiting for this guy. So there was a sense of kind of like, you know, a little bit of revenge that made him come out where I was.
He paid you double. Yeah, it becomes I'm trying to think of the word, but when you're in a relationship and you change your patterns to fit the person, it's
no,
it's
that doesn't work.
But there's that people do that all the time. What's that called when?
Okay.
When
compromise?
What's that?
Compromise?
No, it's
like being solicitous, or
it's like where you
up
become,
or kissing up.
You change your life to fit them.
Yeah.
It's I'll remember it after this. We'll put it across the screen.
That's great. I love how you can do that.
Yeah, because okay. So you invested in me. We're going way over. I want to, because you invested in me when I really needed to finish my parade film, and so I want to show that parade film. You did the telecine. You paid for the film to video transfer from Yale Lab, and that was a very big deal because I was living in North Hollywood, renting a room from some friends. Your parade, you paid for the film transfer.
That's awesome how you just yeah, thank you, man.
So
I
really
like how you've
that.
structured me into your creative life that way. Yeah.
Well, you helped me out because I wanted to complete this 20-year project, and that was the one thing holding me back. One of many things holding me back. To get the proper visual edit, and you're sort of the art angel in that.
Beautiful.
And so we're going to show our parade film right now on this video.
Beautiful. Okay,
and
great.
So this is the parade film. It's old black and white 16mm drama, and enjoy, and we'll be right back.
1, 2, 1, 2.
41. You lost it all and then where you run. Why don't you do right like some other men do? Get out of here and get me some money too. You're sitting down wondering what it's all about. You ain't got no money, they will put you out. Why don't you do right like some other men do? Just get out of here and get me some money too.
Christ. Shit. Fucking BB gun. Wrong fucking pistol anyway. Where? Fuck. Where the fuck is it? Shit. Come on! Fuck. Where the fuck is it? Where the fuck is it when I need it? I can't do anything with this. Oh, God! Ah, shit! Oh. Oh. Ow! Didn't see it coming. you!
Happy New Year, Bob.
Lindsay.
Mommy didn't want me to come over and see you, but I told her you were my friend.
Is that right? Well, come on in, I guess. I don't have anything for you to drink.
That's okay. Yuck. What happened to your face?
I had an accident in the bathroom.
Does it hurt?
You bet it does. Go ahead, sit down.
When I fell off my bike, that really hurt. You need help.
I know, sweetheart.
You should go to the hospital.
I know. I can't.
But why?
You wouldn't understand. You just keep knocking them dead with that beautiful smile of yours. You'll be all right. Why is he outside watching the parade?
Mom says I have to stay in the building and watch from the windows.
Go ahead. Watch it from my window. I gotta go into this bandage in the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Can I help? Mommy says you're sad because you don't have a job. Don't be sad. On New Year's Day, everyone is supposed to be happy.
Can you keep a secret?
Yes?
I don't want to be here right now.
Huh? Where do you want to be?
I don't know exactly. Just far away from here. Sometimes, New Year's Day, people don't feel sadder than they did before. Don't want to go on hurting like me. It's not just being out of work. It's not having a family, someone to be around, someone to take care of.
I know how sad you are. It's like when Clifford never came home.
Right. Clifford. The cat. You remember when he didn't come home? You were really sad. Hey, come on. Let's go watch the parade.
They won't take care of you at the hospital, will they?
I can't afford it.
I understand.
Yeah. You're a smart girl.
I think I better go now.
Okay, Lindsay.
Is this yours?
Stop! Don't move!
Is that real?
Yes.
You should come to the hall for dinner.
I gotta take care of my eye.
Mommy can take care of your eye.
Yeah, sure. Hey, Lindsay. I'm sorry I had to involve you in all my troubles.
That's okay. I like you.
I like you too.
We're friends.
Yeah, we sure are.
Bye.
And now we're back. See, the magic of editing is
Wow.
crazy, right?
Yeah.
But see, I get a little teary-eyed because that was a very big thing for me when you did that.
Wow.
So that was helped me fulfill that vision. So I'm always, hopefully we can do another film together. And I guess, oh god, I'm crying. But it was really
beautiful, man.
It was a really nice thing to get that project done. So what are your future plans? What do you want to do creatively in the future? Like now that we've been from the past, in the middle to now. What are you looking for?
Thanks, Brett. Well, I'm really looking at art as a holistic thing. So to become a better artist is to become a better person. I think I'd heard a saying, maybe an old Zen saying or something, to paint beautifully, become a beautiful person and paint naturally. And somehow that struck me. It sounded simplistic at the time. You know, it's one of those things that's easier said than done, obviously. But I think what I'd like to do, Brett, is recognize that, first of all, that the lion's share of anything I could hope to do is already done. That I am going to be the one who steps into that vision of like a successful life with art, a successful life with people enjoying my art and sharing it as I'd love for it to be, whatever that medium is. And you can understand how, in a way, that the way you like to bring people together, you like to bring art together, and you like to experience the beauty and the interest in multiple forms. So I've always kind of carried that torch too, and I'd like to be good at many, many things. And so I realized that the first step is in being able to have my mind, get my mind back, right? And when I was angry at that guy who took my painting, I did not have my mind. And yet I was the one depriving myself of the most valuable thing. I mean, $1,000 or the $600 he owed me really didn't mean anything compared to what I was depriving myself of. And that is a limitless imagination. And it's an imagination where we can take in things and we can call them real. And, you know, Eckhart Tolle is a really good, interesting example of how thoughts really are not real. When we kind of let them just fall away and we sort of tune into what feels like an infinite expanse, we realize that kind of everything is possible, or at least we can get to that place where we let everything feel like it's possible. And from this complete sense of freedom, what are we going to choose to make our life into? And so whatever I do with art, I really want to approach it from that place. And that if I feel like I'm being controlled by anybody, like, we could start out with the art process. So if I'm painting a picture and somebody's controlling me, somebody who criticized me is now looking over my shoulder in my own imagination, and I'm beating myself up with them, I can just realize, hey, it's not here, it's not now. It doesn't have to be. I can let it go. Go to where you could be more useful, I could say to that image. Yeah. And the more I keep doing that, the more like a newborn baby that canvas becomes, absolutely full of possibilities. Not just possibilities where like I paint something I think is pretty good and it hangs on somebody's wall and I get a couple $1,000, but maybe something more. And maybe every time I paint, I can let go of any limitations of what can happen in this process and surprise myself.
Yeah, I want to paint like I was 13 years old again. With that freedom and that paint with like without wheels, just paint freedom of that. The whole reason why I paint in the first place, to lose yourself in that moment, and you step back
Yeah.
and like, oh shit, that looks pretty fucking good. That looks pretty good.
Yeah.
I like that painting.
Yeah. See, dude, I think you had something that I didn't have when we were out painting, is you had a friendliness and you had a love of selling your paintings. I didn't. I was introverted, I was shy, and I also had this warped view that I didn't want people to buy my paintings because they liked me. I wanted them to buy them because they were good. And so I was kind of an asshole to people. But the worst thing was I was an asshole to myself, and I would just be miserable. I remember a friend walking by and just saying I'm always brooding when I was looking over my paintings. And I just, over time, I realized I've painted myself into a corner emotionally so badly that, you know, this just can't last. I'm just making things miserable. And then I'm a miserable person and I'm not painting because I've just painted myself into a corner.
Yeah.
So
not sustainable. Yeah. It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. Yeah.
Something's gonna crack.
And so the whole starving artist thing became kind of nonsensical too. It's like, you know, sure, it might be easy to rest on your laurels once you have a lot of money. And you can sometimes see that with filmmakers. They seem to get like sloppy and soft. And the young and hungry years are where their most interesting films are. But you know what? Frankly, I think it's kind of like, to be an artist is to be able to accept yourself. I don't mean to speak grandiosely. I'm sure people make great art regardless of what freaking advice I'm giving right now.
Well, there's plenty of assholes out there that make great art. They're complete jerks.
But there's a possibility. Here's what I'm saying is it's a possibility. And if this fits anybody who's listening and they're inspired by this, like, run with it. But there's a thing where you can be at any place in your life, and that can be the subject matter of your art. I think you might have said earlier on, I'm not sure if it was you. No, maybe it was somebody else I was talking with, but they said that like they couldn't paint because they were just kept thinking about something that had happened to them. And I realized, of course, I forget this all the time, but I realized some points in my life where if I made that terrible thing the point of my art, like I would come up with amazing art I didn't think was possible. Like as long as I make that the focal point, and then, you know, and then it just goes away. It's like I've given it permission to exist in this space, and then and then it turns into something wonderful. So there's like that it's just a way to redeem. It's a way to redeem yourself, to redeem people, to take that lowest part of yourself and to put it right up there, that littlest part of Brett. And you're in a crowd and daddy's taking little baby Brett and he's holding Brett way up there. Poor Brett, probably screaming because you can't see anything. And he's a little brat.
Yeah.
That's a brat. I was just making this up. But daddy's like, daddy who loves you. He's like, oh yeah, I know he's a Brett. I'm just gonna lift him up all the way up over everybody's heads. And Brett he's the guy. He's the angel. He's going on high here, and he can see the whole view. And I guess that's like something like I want to do with. Inevitably, I'm gonna have to do it with like those parts of myself that I haven't invited into the process. You know, that are still like, you know, a wallflower in the dance. That just don't feel like this is part of me that can be shown to the world. But eventually, you know, it's going to have to be the prize. It's going to have to be that, you know, the biggest part of my artwork. And I know I'll be very happy when that happens. I'll be a complete person, you know, and an ongoing process of becoming more complete. It's
a lifelong thing of it's like it never stops. You're always trying to learn, right? And keep it. Yeah. If you think you already know everything already, then what's the purpose of continuing? Because you're already right and you're never wrong. So you've already hit your plateau. You gotta keep on experimenting and coming up with new things. That's, you know, the experiment of art. I just did this. Let me show you what I just did yesterday.
Okay.
Which is, it's pretty raw.
I like raw. I really like raw. Oh, hey, that's really nice. That reminds me of some really good Cubist work. You know,
I don't know,
like
it's abstract and
also circa 1910s, and yet there's like this particular. I mean, obviously Cubist is an easy reference point, but like I think it's those gradients that remind me of too, the block-like gradients. But there's actually, Britt, if you wouldn't mind keeping it, unless you want to show me another one. Could I see that again?
Yeah.
Yeah. but like there's a really comfortable softness about it that yeah, yeah. So you got a nice grid like kind of interplay, and then you got the softness of these feathery overlays, like palms, or they could be almost feathery. Well, not quite birds, flowers, but yeah, that's nice, man. Thank you.
Thanks.
That's nice. Yeah, that just hits me in a very comfortable, substantial way. Like there was, like there's some spontaneity, nice spontaneity, and also a kind of the grit. There's some grit behind it too.
I was also organizing little spots, little compartments.
Yeah,
it's a fun motif to go into. Then
Yeah.
like going, because I've been doing all this other palette knife stuff, so it's like I've done different versions of this that I keep on selling them, but this is probably like a third or fourth one I've done that's sort of like this palette knife, like almost like I'm trying to reflect different colors into, it's like a broken mirror. It's like I'm trying to reflect elements of one part into the other and create this like
oh,
with these right here,
yeah,
I think when the next time I do stuff like this, I have to go big with it. I have to go really big with it because I can only make the boxes so big.
Does that work with
like,
your lifestyle? Are you going to be able to do that with your
yeah, I'll do it at
Airbnb assistant? Oh, cool.
I'll do
I
it.
remember a video you made where you're like on the road and you're just painting with an unrolled canvas out in public. I think it had a domed Capitol building kind of in the center of it.
East meets West. I did that. You can find that on YouTube. It's East meets West. It's that half-hour painting film I did a painting from New York to Los Angeles in 1999. And yeah, I painted that. I started off in Times in New York, in the middle of the road. That was my father's in that video. That was a vision quest. Sam Sokolow actually owns that painting. But yeah, I want to keep on creating from a place of freedom, and
yeah,
and I know that it's sometimes hard to, I don't know, for me to keep, I want to feel that newness and that freshness as a young boy. I want to I want to be able to paint with that experimental attitude.
Yes.
And not be, of course, like thinking about how much this painting is going to sell for, or who's going to buy this painting, or because the material transcends the, I'll sell a painting for $500. I'll spend $300 on art supplies.
Yeah.
So it's this weird, like, am I making any money off this stuff? Or am I just painting to paint to the next painting?
It's funny. I had a little bit of this attitude when I first got to Venice. I was thinking to myself, okay, if I don't make money with my paintings, I'm going to meet a lot of colorful people who are kind of kindred spirits. And I guess I could say you're one of them. I mean, you let me store my paintings in your yard under plastic, and dude, you had like a little gate there. It was really helpful to me that I didn't have to carry these things around with me everywhere I went. I mean, I know, and you were helpful, and you were like a really supportive presence, and it was great to just feel anchored, in knowing you and kind of sharing and talking time to time. But I remember telling myself that, like, I'm gonna find ways to make this benefit me one way or another. If it's not money, it's gonna be something else. And look what happened. I mean, I got a place to stay for 3 years for free, doing the bare minimum with shower, laundry, internet, and the place to stay, and my own key. And it was weird. It was just never questioned. I just kind of hung out. It just never left, really.
Are you talking about Titanic?
No, I'm talking about another place on Dudley. It was a Rose Court or Dudley or whatever. Yeah, Dudley. Yeah.
I know.
Okay. Yeah. But
I think it's Rose Court. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And it was, that was I couldn't believe that this was happening. It was like imposter syndrome for like 3 years of living there, but at the same time, I'm like, wow, it's if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, it's actually working. It's actually working.
Yeah, so I was able to accomplish that. Yeah, and not pay rent in like incredibly high prime real estate area. So that, I guess you could say that was a success in my life. But it's interesting to think, outside the box of like, well, what can this do for me? Oh, what can it do for other people too? But what can it do besides being, taking the little shuttle bus from like studio to gallery or home, and then there's a financial transaction along the way. Like, what can this do? What can this be? And I think there's a young mindset, you could say, that that goes along with that. Being 16 again, or 13 again, or whatever age it was you said.
I think we got it. We can keep it. It's just I think you'd have to be a robot to not be affected by all these dramatic survival moments that you have to get through to create art. And people don't see the pizza being made, they just see the end result. And so I mean, we're still here. There's a lot of people that I've known that are a lot more talented and happy, or not necessarily happy, but like that aren't able to be alive right now. So what we do with this life and this time is our own story, I guess, So let's try to wrap it up on a high note, because we went long again. This is gonna
this is really depressing, kind of fucking. This
no, we'll send it on a high note. What kind of music are you listening to right now?
I get obsessed with one. Okay, it's Pharoah Sanders. He played with John Coltrane, so it's like really free jazz, and he's still alive. And the dude put everything into his sax. I mean, he would try to find any sounds that were buried in that sax that could come out, that he could repeat. He seemed to be able to. He would do that. He would explore the ugliness and seem to get through it. And with these crazy solos, I just really relate to him. He's really new agey and eclectic, and he'll bring like a koto or a sitar, and he'll play off of that. And
can you send me an MP3 of that music, and I'll put it for the intro and the outro?
Yeah, I think I can do that. Yeah, I'll rip it off YouTube or something, maybe.
Yeah, just a song that you like. We'll use it.
Oh, thanks.
I'm not monetizing this anyway, so I can use whatever I want.
Yeah, awesome.
Plus, we got Kyle's stuff on here, but that'd be kind of cool. So
I am monetizing it.
What's that? You're.
But I am, man.
Hey, if anybody out there's making money out this, go for it. What are you gonna do with the rest of your day?
That's a really good question. Well, this was obviously the high point of my day, so it's all.
Hey,
we're gonna end on the high point. I'm gonna make some damn art, Brett. How could I not?
Fuck
yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna
fail. I'm gonna fail. You know what? I swear, I'm gonna not only make art, but here's what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find that place that I would avoid, that I get to with the art, where it's like, here's where I have to censor myself. This color doesn't go with that color. I can't put them together. I'm gonna put those damn colors together.
Put them together, man.
And I'm gonna make them like each other.
Yeah, you will like each other.
I'm just gonna be fearless and just transgressive, and
you're gonna make those colors
advanced. I'll have no reason to be at the end of that art session, but I will be here still. How about you?
I'm gonna edit these videos. I'm gonna edit and maybe do some more work on these paintings, but I'm gonna edit. I'll be editing.
And to the person out there watching this video who stayed with us through the thick and the thin, I want to ask you this: what are you gonna do with the rest of your day?
And that's Fresh with Friends, episode 61. With Stephan Pitkin, artist, smiler, gap-toothed man. Well, thanks for being on the show.
Brett.
That was easy, right? That was fun.
Yeah, I think we could do this again sometime.
Okay, we'll do it again.
Take care of yourself.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
After all this time.
Send me the music. Send me some images of the art, and I'll be editing all day. So if you can just do that before you get in your zone of painting, I can put some. I'd love to put some of your images in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'll do that. All right, take care.
Thanks for being on the show, man. Cheers. Good to see you.
You got it.
All right.
Bye.
And that's with Friends. 61th episode with Stephan Pitkin. We're out of here. That's it. Bye.
I'm Lieutenant Frank Drebin, Police Squad.
Their most accomplished album. I think their undisputed masterpiece is Hip to Be Square. Hey, Paul! Ah!